Hello everyone, my name is Disha. I've been through the Bhagavad Gita and my aim is to present it as it is. Though I've already been through it, it is very difficult for me to present it without the actual text. So I'm going to try my best to present it with the help of the text. So starting with the setting the scene and introduction, and then beginning with the chapter first of the Bhagavad Gita in this video. Bhagavad Gita originally appears as an episode in Mahabharata. Lord Krishna spoke Bhagavad Gita to his friend and devotee Arjun. Their discourse took place just before the onset of the war. The war was between the 100 sons of Dhritarashtra and on the opposing sides their cousins, the Pandavas. Dhritarashtra and Pandu were brothers born in the Kuru dynasty. Because Dhritarashtra, the elder brother, was born blind, the throne that otherwise would have been his was passed down to his younger brother Pandu. When Pandu died at an early age, his 5 children, Yudhishthir, Bhim, Arjun, Nakul and Sahadev, came under the care of Dhritarashtra, who in effect became, for the time being, the king. Thus the sons of Dhritarashtra and those of Pandu grew up in the same royal household. Yet the sons of Dhritarashtra, especially the eldest Duryodhan, hated and envied the Pandavas. Dhritarashtra wanted his own sons, not those of Pandu, to inherit the kingdom. Duryodhan many times plotted to kill the young sons of Pandu. It was only by the careful protection of Lord Krishna that the Pandavas escaped the many attempts against their lives. Now Lord Krishna was not an ordinary man, but the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, who had descended to the earth. Lord Krishna was also a relative of the Pandavas in this role. So both as a relative and as an eternal upholder of religion, Krishna favored the righteous sons of Pandu and protected them. Ultimately, the clever Duryodhan challenged the Pandavas to a gambling match. In the course of that fateful tournament, Duryodhan and his brothers took possession of Draupadi, who was the devoted wife of the Pandavas. Krishna's divine intervention saved her, but the gambling, which was rigged, cheated the Pandavas of their kingdom and forced them into 13 years of exile. Upon returning from exile, the Pandavas rightfully requested their kingdom from Duryodhan, who bluntly refused to yield it. Throughout all this, the Pandavas have been consistently tolerant and forbearing, but now war seemed inevitable. Krishna himself took the role of messenger for the sons of Pandu and went to the court of Dhritarashtra to plead for peace. When his pleas were refused, war was now certain. The Pandavas, men of highest moral stature, recognized Krishna to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whereas the impious sons of Dhritarashtra did not. Yet Krishna offered to enter the war according to the desire of the antagonists. As God, he would not personally fight, but whoever so desired might avail himself of Krishna's army, and the other side could have Krishna himself, as an advisor and as an helper. Duryodhan took Krishna's armed forces, while the Pandavas were equally eager to have Krishna himself. In this way, Krishna became the charioteer of Arjun. This brings us to the point where the Bhagavad Gita begins. With the 2 armies arrayed, ready for combat, and Dhritarashtra anxiously inquiring of his secretary Sanjaya, what did they do in the battle? This takes us to the chapter 1 of the Bhagavad Gita, which is observing the armies on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Coming to the first shlok in the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. So I'm going to speak this shlok or this text exactly as it is, but in English. So the first shlok of Bhagavad Gita says, Dhritarashtra said, O Sanjaya, after my sons and the sons of Pandu assembled in the place of pilgrimage at Kurukshetra, desiring to fight, what did they do? This is the first shlok. Now explaining this shlok further, coming to the explanation of what this shlok means. So on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, the Supreme Personality of Godhead was present on the side of Arjun. Dhritarashtra was highly doubtful about the possibility of his son's ultimate victory. So in this doubt, he was inquiring from his secretary Sanjaya, what did they do? He was confident that both his sons and the sons of his younger brother Pandu were assembled in that field of Kurukshetra for a determined engagement of the war. Still, his inquiry is very significant because the battle was arranged to be fought at Kurukshetra, which is mentioned elsewhere in the Vedas as the place of worship. And Dhritarashtra became very fearful about the influence of the place of worship or this holy place on the outcome of the battle. He knew very well that this would influence Arjun and the sons of Pandu favorably because by nature they were all virtuous. Sanjaya was a student of Vyas, and therefore by the mercy of Vyas, Sanjaya was able to envision the battlefield of Kurukshetra even while he was in the room of Dhritarashtra. So Sanjaya was present with Dhritarashtra in the room. He was not actually on the battlefield. Still he could see in live time what was actually happening on the battle, and he was narrating it all to Dhritarashtra, who was blind. And so Dhritarashtra asked him about the situation on the battlefield. The second shlok of the Bhagavad Gita says, Sanjaya said, O king, after looking over the army arranged in military formation by the sons of Pandu, King Duryodhan went to his teacher. Now explaining this shlok further. So Sanjaya informed the king that his son Duryodhan who was Dhritarashtra's son, after seeing the military force of the Pandavas, at once went to the commander-in-chief Dronacharya to inform him of the real position. Although Duryodhan is mentioned as the king, he still had to go to the commander on account of the seriousness of the situation. He was therefore quite fit to be a politician, but Duryodhan's diplomatic veneer could not disguise the fear he felt when he saw the military arrangement of the Pandavas. Coming to the third shlok, in which Duryodhan continues, he says, O my teacher, behold the great army of the sons of Pandu, so expertly arranged by your intelligent disciple, the son of Drupad. Now comes the explanation of the shlok. Duryodhan wanted to point out the defects of Dronacharya, the great commander-in-chief. Dronacharya had some political quarrel with King Drupad. As a result of this quarrel, Drupad performed a great sacrifice, by which he received the benediction of having a son who would be able to kill Dronacharya. Dronacharya knew this perfectly well, and yet he did not hesitate to impart all his military secrets when the son of Drupad was entrusted to him for military education. Now on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, the son of Drupad took the side of the Pandavas, and it was he who arranged for their military phalanx after having learned the art from Dronacharya. Duryodhan pointed out this mistake of Dronacharya's so that he might be alert and uncompromising in the fighting. By this he wanted to point out also that he should not be similarly lenient in battle against the Pandavas, who were also Dronacharya's affectionate students. Arjun especially was his most affectionate and brilliant student. Duryodhan also warned that such leniency in the fight would lead to defeat. Coming to the fourth shlok of the Bhagavad Gita, Duryodhan continues. Here in this army are many heroic bowmen equal in fighting to Bhim and Arjun, great fighters like Yudhan, Virat and Drupad. Now comes the explanation of this shlok. Even though Drishtdum was not a very important obstacle in the face of Dronacharya's very great power in the military art, there were many others who were causes of fear. They are mentioned by Duryodhan as great stumbling blocks on the path of victory because each and every one of them was as formidable as Bhim and Arjun. He knew the strength of Bhim and Arjun, and thus he compared others with them. Coming to the fifth shlok. In the fifth shlok, Duryodhan continues to talk about the opposing army, and he says that there are also great heroic powerful fighters like Drishtketu, Sekitana, Kasi Raja, Purujit, Kunti Bhoj and Sebhya. Coming to the sixth shlok of the Bhagavad Gita, Duryodhan continues. There are the mighty Yudhmanyu, the very powerful Utmoj, the son of Subhadra and the sons of Draupadi. All of these warriors are great chariot fighters. So up to this shlok, up to the sixth shlok, Duryodhan is talking about the opposing army, that is the army of the Pandavas. He knew the opposing army is very strong. Now coming to the seventh shlok, Duryodhan continues to speak, and here in this shlok he is talking about his army. He says that, but for your information, O best of the Brahmanas, he is talking to Dronacharya in this shlok. He says, let me tell you about the captains who are especially qualified to lead my military force. Coming to the eighth shlok, Duryodhan continues to say to Dronacharya that there are many personalities like you, Bhisma, Karan, Kirpa, Ashtavatham, Vikarna and the son of Somdat called Bhurisrav, who are always victorious in battle. So here Duryodhan mentions the exceptional heroes in the battle, who were all on his side and all of whom are ever victorious. Coming to the ninth shlok, Duryodhan continues to speak that there are many heroes who are prepared to lay down their lives for my sake. All of them are very equipped with different kinds of weapons and all are experienced in military science. So there were many who were determined to lay down their lives for Duryodhan's sake. In other words, it is already concluded that all of them would die in the battle of Kurukshetra for joining the party of the sinful Duryodhan. Duryodhan was of course confident of his victory on account of the above mentioned combined strength of his friends. Coming to the 10th shlok, Duryodhan continues to say that our strength is immeasurable and we are perfectly protected by grandfather Bhisma, whereas the strength of Pandavas, carefully protected by Bhim, is limited. So Bhim was on the side of the Pandavas and Bhisma was on the side of Duryodhan's party. The explanation of this text is, herein an estimation of the comparative strength is made by Duryodhan. He thinks that the strength of his armed forces is immeasurable, being specifically protected by the most experienced general, grandfather Bhisma. On the other hand, the forces of the Pandavas are limited, being protected by a less experienced general Bhim, who is like a fig in the presence of Bhisma. So Duryodhan here is comparing Bhisma with Bhim. So Bhim on the side of Pandavas and Bhisma on the side of Duryodhan's party. Duryodhan felt that Bhisma is a much stronger warrior than Bhim. Because Duryodhan was always envious of Bhim, because he knew perfectly well that if he should die at all, he would only be killed by Bhim. But at the same time, he was confident of his victory on account of the presence of Bhisma, who was a far superior general. His conclusion that he would come out of the battle victorious is well ascertained. So these are the first 10 shlokas of the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. I am going to continue further in the next video with this chapter, with the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Anybody who would like to listen to this Gita and complete it with me is welcome to listen further in the second video. My name is Disha and I will see all of you in the next video. Thank you so much.